I saw an amazing headline at InfoWars. I like InfoWars, and I love their founder, Alex Jones. And this looks like hard news, not just commentary. They had a real scoop here. Let me read a bit of it to you. You can find it on their website, of course. Headline says, exclusive, US set to sanction key staff at UK's speech regulator. Willingness of Trump admin to sanction the UK over free speech is a historic development with profound implications for global internet governance. Huh. Wow. Well, that is certainly true. The UK really has a strict media regulator. It's called Ofcom, which sounds like it's right out of Orwell, isn't it? Ofcom is newspeak for Office of Communications, which has power over traditional broadcasting like TV and radio, as well as the internet, and even the post office, I guess. It's very heavy-handed. I've seen them punish and censor my favorite UK news channel, GB News, for being too conservative. It's really weird to see that kind of government interference. It feels very pre-internet era, like when there were a handful of official TV channels and the entire range in points of view from A to B, as opposed to A to Z. It's like Canada's CRTC regulator, and I love to spell out what CRTC stands for, just to show how archaic it is. You know that stands for Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission. I don't know what a radio television is, do you? Who knows? I wonder if they still regulate the talkies on the silver screen or even gramophones. Where is your radio television, young man? Anyways, like our CRTC, Ofcom is now regulating the internet, and they're using a new law over there called the Online Safety Act. Doesn't that sound so similar to our own Online Harms Act that Trudeau proposed, and it was vaporized when he prorogued the government, but I think that that bill is coming back. And their Online Safety Act is being sold the same way our Online Harms Act was, which is the same sales pitch that if you don't support government censorship of politics, you must actually be in league with child pornographers. They had a whole campaign in the UK there where if anyone objected to the Online Harms Act, they were accused of being pro-pedophile. I am not kidding. Here's an example of it. That's what they said to Nigel Farage. Take a look.
I see that Nigel Farage is already saying that he's going to overturn these laws. So, you know, we have people out there who are extreme pornographers, peddling hate, peddling violence. Nigel Farage is on their side. Make no mistake about it. If people like Jimmy Savile were alive today, he'd be perpetrating his crimes online. And Nigel Farage is saying that he's on their side.
I'm sorry.
Not the side of children who are...
I'm going to ask you to clarify. Do you honestly think to say Nigel Farage is on Jimmy Savile's side?
When it comes to online activity, we have seen unfettered access of adults to children via social media. When we put in the age verification, it stops strange adults getting in touch with children. So make no mistake.
This is a major leap. You're going to stick to the fact that you said that Nigel Farage is on Jimmy Savile's side.
Nigel Farage is on the side of turning the clock back to the time when strange adults, strangers, can get in touch via messaging apps with children. We have now asked them to age verify the age in which people can have access to online content so we can protect children from unwanted, dangerous content and also those messaging services where people can get access directly to it. Nigel Farage wants to turn the clock right back when all of that, I have absolutely no doubt about it, people are perpetrating more crime online, more danger to children online, and Nigel Farage has said he wants to overturn every single one of the laws that keeps children safe in our country.
It's an interesting extrapolation, but we've got your views on it.
Yeah, I don't think that worked. I think that actually really backfired on them because everyone saw it was just a smear. Same tactic used here in Canada. The Online Harms Act in the UK did have some anti-child pornography elements into it, many of which are already in law, just like the Online Safety Act, their Online Harms Act here. They both had that. But I think that was a distraction, a misdirection, so they could sneak political censorship into it like a stowaway. Just today, for example, a young mother named Lucy Connolly was released from prison in the UK. She had been sentenced to 31 months in prison for an intemperate tweet. She said something like, they can burn down those migrant hotels for all I care. I mean, it's not a nice thing to say, and she quickly realized that, and she deleted that, and she obviously didn't mean for someone to actually go and do that. It was not an incitement to violence. No one was incited by it. It didn't happen. It was just a woman who was frustrated with the mass murder of British girls that had just happened at the hands of actually a son of migrants. 31 months in prison for a mother, first-time offender. That's more time in prison than many actual rapists in the UK get. That's what I mean by internet censorship. That's the kind of thing that the Online Safety Act over there or the Online Harms Act over here would do. They are further down the road in the UK than we are here in Canada. And you can't just put this on the Labour government over there, by the way. The Labour government has been in office for 13 months. It's atrocious. But the so-called Conservative Party, they were in office for 14 years before that. They were the ones who actually wrote and passed this law, just like they were the ones who presided over mass immigration for 14 years. So you can't just say left wing, can you? Anyways, it's worse than ever. All sorts of political conversations are being mass censored in the UK, especially anything touching on illegal migrants, smuggling of migrants across English Channel, refugees, bogus refugees, refugee hotels. In other words, the most important news in the UK right now is banned in the UK by Ofcom and this censorship law. 30 people a day are being arrested for mean social media tweets. 30 a day in the UK. Now, that has caught the interest of the United States government for a variety of reasons. I mean, Americans do like freedom. Another reason is that most social media companies in the world are American companies. YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Twitter, they're all American. So if those platforms are being censored overseas, it's an American company that's being limited. Donald Trump and his team have a special hatred for social media censorship, since that is what was used so brazenly against him and other Republicans in the run-up to the 2020 elections. It's one of the reasons he became good friends with Elon Musk, who bought Twitter. Even though they're a bit estranged now, Trump's commitment to free speech endures. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance have mentioned freedom of speech several times to Europeans, especially in the UK, and the Europeans do not like it, which tells me it's a very good thing. Here's J.D. Vance in his first European speech, speaking in Munich, warning them about losing their values.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, This last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
And here they are again when Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister,
You discuss the importance of free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
what's your advice?
Starmer's choice of words is pretty interesting when he talks about free speech. He always says the UK has a great history of free speech. Yes, it certainly does, but we're more concerned about the present and the future, aren't we? A few weeks ago, a congressional delegation, so not the president, but elected congressmen, went over to the UK to raise these issues directly with the government. I think they went to Ireland also. That's sort of amazing. It's almost like an intervention with a friend that's off track, isn't it? And just the other day, the social media company Reddit, based in the United States, sent a scorching letter to Ofcom saying they do not have offices or operations in the UK. So Ofcom's threats of censorship and fines and even arrests or other punishments will be resisted in U.S. courts. But it was a letter widely circulated to U.S. political leaders too. A showdown is coming. What I mean by that is Reddit was saying to the UK, if you try to censor an American company, you will feel political pain. All right, so back to the InfoWars scoop. Let me read a little bit from the story. A senior official at the U.S. State Department is set to sanction key personnel of the UK's main regulator of Internet Broadcast and Telecoms, Ofcom, for infringing on U.S. citizens and U.S. companies, according to Ofcom Watch founder and chairman Norman Richmond. Gab and BitChute, two American platforms known for their unfiltered content, faced a stark choice under Ofcom's enforcement of the Online Safety Act. In April 2025, both announced their withdrawal from the UK, refusing to comply with what they labeled government censorship. Quote, the very first line of sanctions that the American administration is looking at is actually imposing travel sanctions and economic sanctions against individuals in the UK government who were involved in enforcing the censorship, Richmond told this writer at InfoWars in an exclusive interview. I'm slightly skeptical about the travel, but maybe not. I mean, they have banned the out-of-control Brazilian judge Alexandre de Moraes from traveling to America. Back to the story. The move follows a March 2025 meeting in London where American diplomats delivered a stark warning. Backed by President Trump's executive orders, the administration targets Ofcom's enforcement of the Online Safety Act, a law Richmond calls a censorship weapon aimed at American free speech. I'm almost done. I'll just read a little more. The confrontation stems from Ofcom's aggressive stance under the Act, which imposes fines of up to £18 million or 10% of a company's global revenue. In severe cases, it can block services in the UK or jail offenders for up to 2 years. This March, Ofcom notified major U.S. social media platforms of their obligations, prompting a swift U.S. response. I won't read the whole thing, see it for yourself, but imagine if these fancy pants British regulators would be banned from visiting the U.S. I'm not so sure about if they really would have financial sanctions, but holy moly, imagine if they were not allowed to use Western credit cards or the SWIFT system or any U.S. banks. I mean, you cannot send an e-transfer, you cannot use a North American credit card for anything to do in Russia. Imagine if that kind of punishment were put on the censors. It's not quite the sanctions put on Vladimir Putin or Nicolas Maduro, where their money is seized and they're forbidden from banking. Although maybe, I don't know what is alluded to there by their source. But imagine if it was just travel, which I think would be perhaps more plausible. Imagine the fancy pants who could no longer go to New York or LA or Florida or Disneyland or wherever they want to go. And everyone likes to visit the U.S. Even people who hate the U.S. like to visit the U.S. It's such an amazing country. But even if those bureaucrats can do without visiting the U.S., imagine the humiliation and denormalization to be banned from traveling to America for violating civil liberties. I suppose some hardcore leftists would wear that as a badge of honor, but I doubt that most would. I doubt they would want the publicity at all either, by the way. Most bureaucrats thrive in the darkness, don't they? They don't want their names being known. Now, I'm interested in America and I'm interested in the UK, and this is very interesting news to me, but I live in Canada and Canada is my home. So I wonder, could the United States take a similar interest in our freedom of speech and lack thereof? I don't want Canada to be a plaything for foreign politicians or foreign oligarchs, although even as I say those words, I realize that our prime minister is exactly that, a foreign oligarch, 3 passports, lives in London, just came back to rule us. So yeah, we are being run by a foreign oligarch. In so many ways, we have hollowed out our own country and become a branch plant. I mean, those automakers in Ontario, Ford, Honda, Toyota, those are not Canadian brands. Much of the oil patch is owned by Americans. We already are at the mercy of foreign commerce. But that's nothing compared to our most important measure of sovereignty, our own borders, our national defense, our control of our territory. We have demeaned ourselves. We've called ourselves genociders of Indigenous people. We've opened the borders to millions of people who don't know us, and many of whom hate us. What is Canada now but an easy touch for immigration, especially given that Trump is deporting millions? And do you remember that Chinese hot air spy balloon? You know, it drifted over Canada first before the U.S. shot it down over their territory. We couldn't. We can't defend ourselves against even a hot air balloon. We were completely beholden to the U.S. We're just lucky they're so nice about it. So yeah, I wish we could solve the censorship problem in Canada on our own, but our courts don't seem to agree. Our parliament doesn't seem to agree. Our media doesn't seem to agree. They're all happy with a layer of censorship. So does it prick my patriotism to have Americans come to our rescue, if they would, by sanctioning Canadians? Yeah, I mean, part of me would say butt out, but you know what? No, I'd welcome it. Imagine if every cabinet minister who touches the Online Harms Act or other censorship laws would be banned from visiting the US. That would pack a lot more punch in Canada than it does in the UK. I mean, I don't know how many people in London vacation in the States, but in our Canadian Parliament, I think the majority of MPs go down to the United States, Florida or Phoenix or wherever. So yeah, bring it on. I look forward to Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance doing for our freedoms what our own political leaders won't.